Good evening and welcome to the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachuku and these are the top stories. Gunmen kill 3 soldiers in fresh attack on army post in Abia. Nnamdi Kanu's lawyers speaks to Southeast governors. Ohaneze Indigbo meets Nnamdi Kanu in DSS custody. Nnamdi Kanu moves to stop trial by Nigerian government, heads to appeal court. And troops kill 6 insurgents, arrest 3 collaborators in Kaduna village. Details now. The World News at 6 begins with at least 3 soldiers of the Nigerian army who were reportedly killed in a recent assault by unknown gunmen in Abia State. VOP News gathered that the security officers from the 14th Brigade headquarters of the Nigerian Army, or Abia, who are attached to the 144 Battalion, were tragically killed at the Army outpost located on the popular Abia junction of Umuola in Abia North local government area. VOP News understands that the soldiers were caught off guard by the masked gunmen who arrived in a black SUV. According to the nation, the gunmen also stole the soldiers' firearms and set fire to the patrol van and outpost before departing. As of the time of this report, a military aircraft was seen circling the city center. The latest attack on soldiers is coming a week after a group identified as a Foundation for Environmental Rights, Advocacy and Development admonished the installation of security television and cameras around all military formations in Abia State. The group had given the suggestion while condemning the attack on soldiers attached to the 14th Brigade in Abia by hoodlums. The group described the attack as a barbaric act carried out by faceless enemies. They commiserated with the Nigerian army on the incident and also sympathized with the families of residents who were hit by bullets during the attack. However, let's take a listen to a resident in Abia who spoke with VOP News crew of what actually happened today.
I reside in Abia, to be precise. Actually, this morning, I guess, from what I saw on social media, because my location is quite far from the Obika junction. So, what I actually saw was that some people were trying to enforce the sit at home.
Okay.
And they moved towards the Obika junction where the Nigerian army personnel were stationed.
Okay, call that area again, sir. Call the area again.
Abia junction.
Okay.
Upper Hill.
All right.
Yes. So they moved towards that area from what I saw. So maybe there was a confrontation between the both of them, between the army and the guys on black. So that shootout led to the loss of life of those
who went to who first? So, was it the supposed unknown persons that went to the post of the military men?
I would say unknown because they were men on black, maybe trying to enforce the sit at home.
Okay.
Today. Yes, so I would say unknown because we don't know them. So they went to
they are not IPOB, they are not ESN, there is no marking on the uniform they wore to indicate who they were.
Yeah, no marking. Normally black or on black trousers or on black shirt. So no marking. You cannot identify them. So they actually came for enforcement. That is what I know. So that confrontation started and the shootout before there was loss of life on that particular Obika junction. We have army personnel stationed there right from time. So I think those guys were guys that lost their life.
So were those guys going to the army barrack or station there to attack those military men unprovoked?
I guess I would say unprovoked, because today is quite a normal day, so it's very quiet. Yes, so everybody's at home, obeying the sit at home. So I guess maybe they came to that junction, maybe to see if, I don't know if maybe they will see the army guys there, I don't know. So maybe actually they came for that confrontation or maybe whatever, I cannot really say. But I know the army guys normally stay at that junction. So the confrontation actually happened and the men lost their life.
Now, what exactly is the state in Abia? What is the condition like there? Because we saw video footages on social media of the shootout and all. A lot of residents scampered for safety. That is the little persons who were trickling around. So, what is the state now? Because there are statements or says that there is panic there, or southeast is boiling. So, what exactly is the state there?
No, nothing is actually happening. Everywhere is calm. People are moving about because it's already evening. So nothing is happening. The sit at home have come and gone. So people are moving around. There is no problem for now. There's no issue. Everywhere is calm.
All right, sir. Mr. Oguchukwu, thank you so much for actually giving us your perception, or giving us an eyewitness report of what transpired in Abia today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, you just listened to Ugochukwu Ugwegbolam. He is a resident in Abia State, giving us the situation report of what actually transpired, and the state in Abia, what it is now. According to what he just said, normalcy has since returned, and let's hope that things continue to be that way. Meanwhile, Ifeanyi Ejiofor, who is a lead counsel to the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has told governors in the southeast region to declare May 30 as a public holiday. He said the date should be declared a public holiday in the southeast in honor of over 5 million southeasterners who were killed during the Nigerian Civil War, which lasted from July 6, 1967 to January 15, 1970. Ejiofor made the call in a statement today in which he reacted to the May 30 sit-at-home declared by IPOB in the region. According to him, making the date a public holiday would call the federal government's attention to one of the region's peculiar issues, just as those in the southwest did when they set aside June 12 as a public holiday to commemorate the anniversary of the annulled 1993 presidential election, adjudged to have been won by the late MKO Abiola. He added that the move would also go a long way in healing the wounds of the Civil War. He said, and quote, "We must remember the massacre of over 6,000 men, mainly residents of Asaba, who were gruesomely killed at Obosowe, Asaba, in present-day Delta State between October 4 and 7, 1967. Nigeria is under a moral obligation to acknowledge this tragedy, as it was not the making of Asaba. It is important to know that no matter how long history is hidden, it will always reveal itself on true platforms. Unfortunately, the story of post-war reconstruction, reintegration and reconciliation has remained a ruse. These 3 R's must go hand in hand for a full healing process, but the reverse has been the case." In the meantime, the leadership of Haneze Ndibo is currently meeting with Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, at the headquarters of the Directorate of State Services in Abuja. The delegation, led by the president of the Apex Igbo Socio-Cultural Body, Chief Emmanuel Wanyawu, entered the DSS complex at about 1:05 p.m. However, details of the meeting is yet to be made public. VOP News gathered that the ongoing sit-at-home order in commemoration of Biafra Heroes Day will be featured. Now, also, Nnamdi Kanu has filed an application at the appeal court to stop his trial. In the appeal filed through his lead counsel, Aloy Ejimako, Kanu kicked against his trial by an Abuja Federal High Court presided by Justice Binta Inyako. A few weeks ago, Ejimako had declared that the court lacked the jurisdiction to entertain charges against Nnamdi Kanu. The Nigerian government is prosecuting the IPOB leader on terrorism-related charges. He urged the appeal court to set aside the decision/ruling, the subject of this appeal, and in particular for the trial court to decline jurisdiction to proceed with the hearing of the case unless and until the appellant is, by the respondent, granted his right to fair hearing under Section 3666B and subsection C of the Constitution, or in the alternative, for the trial court to order an alternative custodial or non-custodial arrangement free of the respondent's interference with the appellant's said constitutional right to fair hearing. The IPOB leader, in the same vein, urged the appeal court to stay the proceedings pending when the Nigerian government affords him the constitutional safeguards of being afforded adequate facilities to prepare for his defense and his unfettered right to counsel. You're currently listening to the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll head into our news analysis segment, where we'll be joined by Barrister Eze Eluche to actually give us his perception to some questions that will be posed at him. Do stay with us. evening, Barrister Eze Lucha, and thank you for joining us on the World News at 6.
Yes, thank you very much for having me on board.
Barrister Eze, quite a lot transpired today, but one of them is a sit-at-home that was declared in the southeastern states. For example, in Anambra, the Nigerian police was able to shoot one sit-at-home enforcer, demobilized him. 3 of them escaped, and they actually are currently searching out for those who escaped. You also know that some southeastern governors told the residents within their state to go about their businesses and not be afraid to do that. While in Abia State, Governor Oti has said he's not going to obstruct the sit-at-home order. If anybody wants to go and recognize it, fine. If not, whatever. But in Abia State today, some unknown gunmen wearing black uniforms actually accosted one of the military checkpoints where they've always been, and they killed. In fact, they said they were surprised. It was like an ambush, and they killed 2 of the soldiers there. Can you tell us precisely what this means for Abia State and why we are still experiencing something like this in that region?
Well, the reality is that people have a right to mourn their dead.
Okay.
And globally, the remembrance of martyrs, the remembrance of those who died for a cause, is a worthy venture. But the reality is that this sit-at-home may not be well liked by everybody, but it's one of the means which people have realized that they can use to mourn their dead. Having said that, the extent of military or security interference in civil life in the southeast is overbearing. In Abia State, for instance, in Abia particularly, you have soldiers inside streets, in inner streets in the city. And when they are in those kind of positions, nobody even knows who could try to harm these soldiers. Elsewhere, even not even in Maiduguri do you have soldiers in streets in Maiduguri. So you wonder why soldiers should be allowed to be inside streets of cities that anybody moves around. So apparently in Abia today, it appears that there was some kind of interference and some soldiers were killed, which is most unfortunate. But then we hope that the soldiers will realize and understand that when such things happen, the actual perpetrators would have left the scene almost immediately.
In fact, Barrister Eze Luche, that is where I want to come in. Whenever these individuals cause this mayhem, those who bear the brunt or the repercussion of this are the innocent residents in those communities. The normal thing that the military men do is when something like this happens, they barrage those communities and either they destroy houses, take people at random. Sometimes there is a shootout completely and leaves the state desolate or the community desolate. So how should the state governor react to this?
The state government should be proactive. When you see these soldiers who should be in their barracks ordinarily, when you see them in streets, inside cities, with guns, the government should ensure that we don't have soldiers on our streets. We don't have a war situation for good many days. Like I keep on saying, not even in Kanu or in Nigerian do you have soldiers on the streets. So why must you have soldiers in the streets in these instances? And so at this instance now, the governor should intervene because those who perpetrate these absurd attacks on the military would have left the scene, and the civilian population must be protected by the state so that the military does not embark on what they call reprisal attacks.
Right.
And by the way, this reprisal attacks is most unprofessional. It's most unprofessional and uncouth. We should not expect Nigerian soldiers to be shooting at Nigerian citizens. The very basic of the military training is they're supposed to protect and preserve the citizenry and not to shoot and kill. So I hope that the military will step in before it blows out and ensure that minimal harm, if no harm actually, should even be forced on the people of Abia.
All right, Barrister, we have quite a lot to talk about. Let's look at this. The Nigerian Civil War was fought from 1967 to 1970 between Nigeria's federal government and the secessionist state Biafra. And one of the key factors that led to this was ethnic conflict, economic inequality, and educational disparities. These were among the factors that contributed to the start of the war, which killed an estimated 500,000 to more than 3 million people. Now, Aloy Ejimako, the defense, that is the defense counsel, the legal practitioner or the legal representative of Nnamdi Kanu, actually spoke to the Nigerian southeastern governors. He told them that heaven would not fall if they declare May 30 a public holiday. He said that the date should be declared a public holiday in the southeast in honor of the over 5 million southeasterners who were killed during the Nigerian Civil War. He said this is because, if you recall the June 12 Democracy Day now, that if the federal government attention was drawn to it and it was declared a public holiday, if the southeastern governors should do same, possibly the federal government would recognize the importance of May 30. What's your take on what Aloy Ejimako said?
Well, my take, the reality is this. With state governments declare public holidays for even the inauguration of governors. They declare public holidays for such innocuous acts as sports festivals, the victory in sports festivals. So what is wrong with having a public holiday to commemorate the demise of millions of martyrs?
Okay.
But unfortunately for the Southeast, we have the reality is that most of the governors in the southeastern states, they know they were not elected by the people. Otherwise, the 30th of May, which is recognized as a day to celebrate and commemorate the death of martyrs in the Biafran War, would long have been a public holiday in the southeast. Since they've not done that, what they should now be doing is to ensure that at least there's some commemoration of that day, even if it's a 5-minute silence across the state. Because there's simply no way you can allow the memories of those who died during the Civil War to lapse. Nigeria, for goodness sake, still recognizes the death of Murtala Muhammad, who is a non-butcher of the Civil War. He's a war criminal, but it's one of the days that is celebrated. Then why can't you commemorate the death of millions? So the whole on these people of the South is find a way that will still commemorate this death of these millions of martyrs without endangering the life of the citizens in the Southeast.
Barrister Ezeluche, political scientists, all right, thought evokers like yourself and political analysts too have always said that the situation in the Southeast is basically caused by the state governors. They have refused to listen to the agitation of the indigents within their state, and maybe that's why it feels like the federal, that is from the federation, from the federal government, that region has been marginalized. Do you agree with that line of thought?
No, I don't agree with that. And I thought, let me give you a practical example. Like Imo State, we have a governor in Imo State who knows that he was not elected by the people. The people of the state know he was an imposition. So how will you now blame this man who is only acting for the interest of those who imposed him on the state for the fault of the state? So once you allow pure democracy to be the infant, the Southeast will merge and flourish naturally. So It's not the governors, because these governors were virtually imposed in most instances. And even those who were not imposed, like the Abia state governor, they still have to survive within the gambit of the Nigerian state that still militarizes the Southeast. Like I said earlier, in Abia, in Abia, you have soldiers, military checkpoints in inner cities. You don't have military checkpoints in streets in Surulere or Mafonuku or other parts of Lagos. You may have them on the highways.
Do you think the reason why those checkpoints were installed there were because of what the unknown gunmen were creating, the instability they were creating in that region? Do you think that's the case?
When you go this sort of unknown gunmen, the unknown gunmen are long known by the people. People know that these unknown gunmen were known, and mostly they are agents of the government. I'll give a critical example. In Imo State, we talked of unknown gunmen for a very long time. Saheed Dokubo came out and admitted that he was the one that was killing the people under the guise of unknown gunmen. So when you say unknown gunmen, they are known. The people of the Southeast are industrious and they want to make progress. They are not aliens or terrorists like they have been protected. So don't use the word unknown gunmen, because those unknown gunmen are well known, and in most cases, they are known as agents of the government. So So we have to be practical and steadfast in addressing these issues.
All right, Barrister Eluche, those facts have not been out. This is your own perception to what you think about this unknown gunman. All right, let's move on to the situation with Nnamdi Kanu. Apparently, he has filed an application at the appeal court to stop his trial. And if the appeal fell through his lead counsel, Aloy Ejimako, Kanu kicked against his trial by Abuja Federal High Court, which was presided over by Justice Binta Nyako. So one of the things they're asking is they're asking the court to set aside the decision and ruling of the appeal, in particular for the trial court to decline jurisdiction to proceed with the hearing of the case. Do you think that will be possible?
Now, this Nnamdi Kanu case is deliberate forward by the government to continue to diminish the claim of the Southeast. Not too long ago, within the past week actually, the leader of Yeti Allah, who has come out severally to own up to terrorist activities, to killings, mass killings, to ethnic cleansing and genocide in the Middle Belt region. The federal government said they were no longer interested in prosecuting his case.
Yes, they've removed the terrorism charges against him.
Yeah, they withdrew cases of terrorism against a character who has severally owned up to committing ethnic genocide, ethnic cleansing of genocidal proportions. Now, if that government is willing to withdraw those charges, why has that same government refused to withdraw charges against Nnamdi Kanu, who on record has not literally no crime or no killing has been attributed, just a quest for the self-redemption of the Southeast. So when you see this kind of double standard, you begin to wonder, is the horror we are witnessing in the Southeast being orchestrated by the central government? If the government can, for peace to reign, withdraw terrorism charges against an admitted terrorist, the leader of Yeti Allah, why would that same government not be willing to also withdraw and release on bail Nnamdi Kanu, who has been admitted to bail severally by Nigerian courts, a man who has not admitted to any terrorism?
The leader of Yeti Allah, who was actually cleared of any terrorism charges, we did not see his proceeding in court. But what kind of argument would his defense have put out to have cleared all of that against him? If, according to you, you said this is a man who confessed to actually acting out anti-state activities and perpetrating terrorism-related charges against that were actually filed against him?
I mean, there would have been no defense because severally, we know in several instances in cases of killings by Fulani militia in Benue and Plateau states, he has owned up and he claimed, the Yeti Allah leadership claimed that those killings were in reprisals for killings of Fulani headsmen and their cows. So when a man admits that killings took place as reprisal attacks, he has admitted those killings. In the case of this Nnamdi Kanu we are talking about, there has been no such admission of violence, and there is still this lack of respect of court orders for his release. I mean, it's worrisome. It gives the impression that the scale of justice is not balanced, that the government to continue work from where Buhari started, where Buhari's age of the 5% votes he got came from. And that's quite unfortunate.
All right, let me ask you a question, Barrister Eze, because it's important for us to have an objective view of these issues, regardless from what ethnic group anybody comes from. In the case of Nnamdi Kanu, it has been seriously publicized and on the lips of everybody. He has been asking to be transferred either to Kuje prison or be given bail to be under house arrest. On several occasions, his counsel has actually written that he should please have basic access to whatever human rights that everyone is actually supposed to have access to. Now, if they are writing for this case to be completely dismissed or for the jurisdiction to be declined, why do you think his case will not be in line with what happened with the Yeti Allah leader? If his case, according to you, that man has publicly disclosed to his terrorism-related activities, and in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, look at these two issues; they're somewhat similar. So why would you suppose that Justice Binta Nyako or any justice who will be in charge may not grant the same leave like they cleared of the terrorism charges on Yeti Allah?
Now, the fact is, it's not a matter of the justice or the judge who is involved, who is ruling over this matter. If you recollect, the withdrawal of terrorism charges from Meiti on the Meiti Chan or whatever was not by the judge. It was the Federal Attorney General who made that withdrawal. And that withdrawal or not prosecute means the case has ended. So likewise, we should not talk of the justice in this case, which is Binta Nyako.
Okay.
The issue is with the executive arm of government, with the Office of the Attorney General, who has the prerogative to also withdraw charges or even to comply with the rulings of court granting Nnamdi Kanu bail. Now, why they have stopped this gives the impression that somehow in the government still wants to perpetuate the schisms with the service, because these issues are very easily solved. Now, if these young men are clamoring for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, and Nnamdi Kanu has not admitted, and there has been actually no clear-cut case of terrorism against him, why don't you release him? Why don't you release him?
That's a huge question. So there is a possibility there is the Attorney General of the Federation has the right to actually withdraw the case against him.
The Attorney General of the Federation of that of a state has absolute right to withdraw a case against anybody. And that is that same right or that same prerogative that the Attorney General used to withdraw the case of terrorism levied against the chairman of Meiti Allah. Now, why he has not used that same prerogative also for the Nnamdi Kanu issue, who has been in detention for about 3-4 years, is worrisome. And then, like I keep on saying, you are withdrawing terrorism charges from a man, the Meiti leadership, who has admitted, who has stated, and continue to also emphasize that they will they undergo reprisal attacks against communities, killing thousands. And you are now still holding on to an Nnamdi Kanu who has not been seen committing any of those crimes. It shows double standard and shows that the system is actually very much biased against this young man.
Well, Nnamdi Kanu is meant to appear in court sometime in June. We look forward to what this particular write-up, that is in defense to his case.
The issue of his court appearance are immaterial, because the Meiti guy did not even bother to appear in court, and the Attorney General withdrew. The Attorney General, who is the senior Attorney General, can also do the same thing, and that issue will be doused. But why they continue to persist in this illegality, unconstitutionality by withholding this man who has been severally admitted to bail is unfortunate.
Barrister Eze, thank you so much. We've actually run out of time, but thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your responses and perception to the questions posed at you. We actually do appreciate you for enlightening us.
Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.
Yes, thank you. To wrap up the world news at 6, here again are the top stories. And before we wrap up, these are the views of Barrister Eze Eluchi. Gunmen kill 3 soldiers in fresh attack on army post in Abia. Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer speaks to Southeast governors. Ohaneze Nnamdi will meet Nnamdi Kanu in DSS custody. Nnamdi Kanu moves to stop trial by Nigerian government heads to appeal court. And troops kill 6 insurgents to arrest 3 collaborators in Kaduna village. That's a wrap on the world news at 6. My name is Esther Mwachuku. Good evening and thank you for listening.